Chapter 111. My goodness, how could there be a man taking a shower here? Jianlan was stunned. By the time she realized that she should not look at anything indecent, it was too late. Although only 1 second had actually passed. She turned around and wanted to run, but a tall figure appeared in front of her, which scared her. The speed was as if he had teleported. The man put on his coat, wrapped his body tightly, but the clothes on his chest were still reduced to a V-neck, and his strong chest muscles were faintly visible. Jianlan fell into silence. In order to avoid thinking about the scene just now, she looked up. As a result, she was met with the cold gaze of the person who was looking down at her. Now that the distance was closer, she naturally recognized the identity of the man taking a bath. Her heart was thumping. This person was none other than the chief priest of Hay Village, whom she had met last night. Until this moment, she finally understood why Aya said that. The lower reaches of the stream were a forbidden area for the village. The truth is, their chief priest would take a bath here. Sorry. I'm sorry. Jianlan stumbled, accidentally seeing something she shouldn't have seen. Should she praise him or explain? He might not like to hear it. Actually, confession is fine. Men like it. But she should apologize first. She just finished speaking the words. Suddenly, a familiar buzzing sound came from the air. This sound made Jianlan shudder. She looked up at the sky nervously, and after confirming that there was no shadow of the dragonfly, she felt relieved. Of course she couldn't find it in the air, because that thing went around her back. The flying stick is coming. The dragonfly was suspended in the air, and stretched out its poisonous spikes towards her neck. Jianlan didn't have eyes behind her, so she didn't see the scene. All she could see was the high priest raising his hand. Then, she felt a burning sensation, and subconsciously dodged forward. But there was someone in front of her. So, a ball of fire ignited the thin flying stick in the air. Jianlan watched in horror as the dragonfly, which looked like a Christmas candy roll, was burned to ashes, and fell down completely. The fiery demon wall burned fiercely, and the flame shone brightly, illuminating Jianlan's face. Stranger? The voice came from above, and the high priest frowned, which was rare. You are troublesome. And Jianlan, in his arms, was still holding his collar tightly. Oops. It was hard to explain whether the apology just now could offset Jianlan's guilt of seeing his naked body. It was still unknown. But one thing was certain. The dragonfly was chasing him. Being suddenly exposed, Jianlan could not care about the punishment she might suffer for causing trouble to the Black Village. She had to find a way to solve this disaster as soon as possible. There was a wave of poisonous dragonflies last night, and another wave came today, covering the sky and the earth. And there was no end. It seemed that they would not stop until she was out of breath. However, although the dragonflies were powerful, they were no different from branches when facing the high priest of the Black Village. Can you do me a favor? Jianlan whispered. It turns out that, when people are speechless to a certain extent, they will really laugh. The corners of the high priest's mouth twitched twice. Why should I help you? This woman is simply outrageous. I helped you before, don't you remember? Jianlan said seriously. I took you out of that place. Hearing this, the high priest paused. He didn't quite understand where Jianlan was referring to, but after thinking for a moment, he began to doubt, could it be that voice at that time? His thoughts were interrupted by a noisy sound of footsteps. Some people came, and there were many of them. The mission had not been completed for such a long time, and there was no progress at all. The people of Yeyue finally couldn't bear it anymore. Even if the map showed a piece of shadowy land, which was clearly one of the most dangerous areas in the Evil Mist Swamp, they had to come, because the tracking showed that the woman had probably hidden inside. However, they never expected that they would see Jianlan as soon as they arrived at the gate of the Black Village. Not only Jianlan, but also a man in strange clothes stood beside her. Even if they didn't know the high priest Tanling, they would know the power of the bow and arrow in his hand. Don't mess with people holding red glowing weapons. It is the unchanging iron rule in this game. They tried to negotiate. Yeyue had no hostility towards the Black Village, nor did they want to conflict with the people in the village. But they and Jianlan had an irreconcilable hatred. As long as there was a hint of hostility, they would nip it in the bud to prevent future troubles. They hoped that the high priest would not interfere in this matter. But? Get lost. Tanling's reply to them was just this simple and rough word. There was no need to fight, but just a look, and the group of people were scared. The captain who was leading the group was still eager to try, but was reminded by his subordinates pulling the corner of his clothes. Their panel was banned. When the captain saw it, he was immediately confused. This area is more weird than he imagined. Luckily, he didn't do it just now, otherwise they would have all been logged out now. The panel can't be used, but the flute to summon the dragonfly can still work. Just when I was worried about not being able to find the source, they finally delivered it to my door. I hurriedly stepped back a few steps and dodged quickly, so the fire didn't burn his fingers. But the bone flute given by Master Chu Chi also turned into ashes. I was completely at a loss. It took so long to complete the task. If you have the ability, don't be a coward. Hide in this forbidden magic area. The captain pointed at Jianlan. Jianlan silently replied, I don't have the ability. The captain was embarrassed on the spot, and almost lost his balance. The high priest Tanling on the side was already very unhappy. These people had too much to say. The people Yeyue sent to hunt down Jianlan left in disgrace. So far, Jianlan's crisis of being hunted down by dragonflies was completely resolved. However, this also caused new problems. Although she retorted to the captain at that time, the so-called forbidden magic zone he mentioned was deeply engraved in Jianlan's mind. What is the forbidden magic zone? Could it be that because she was in this area, her game panel malfunctioned? So, does it mean that, as long as she gets out of here, her ability will be restored? Jianlan had a hopeful guess in her heart, and her body involuntarily took steps towards the border stream. However, she had just taken 2 steps. Her arm was controlled by a force, and someone pulled her. Jianlan, falling into silence. The person who pulled her was not someone else. Tanling's voice rang out mercilessly. Where are you going? Tanling finally forgot that Jianlan had helped her. But as the price of helping Jianlan had to do him a favor. Jianlan naturally agreed. Now, Yeyu's people were driven away, and the dragonfly would never attack Jianlan again. It was time for her to fulfill her promise. To be honest, Jianlan was not the kind of person who had no contract spirit, and she didn't want to run away. She turned around. What do you want me to help you with? As long as she could do it, she would do her best. Tanling lowered his eyes and fell on her face. Jianlan could clearly see his curled eyelashes and melancholy eyes. Then, Tanling said what he needed Jianlan to do. Jianlan's expression froze instantly. She felt her cerebellum shrink a little. No way. How could it be such a request? Sitting on the bed in Aya's bedroom, Jianlan's mood could not calm down for a long time. Oh my god! Oh my god! Aya was even more shocked. Just now, the elders in the village had all come, which showed the authenticity of this matter. Moreover, as Jianlan's contact person in the village, Aya was fully responsible for this matter. Even though she was just a little girl in the eyes of everyone, she rose to the same status as the adult men in the village overnight, and even higher than the average villagers. She was surprised and happy about this change. Compared with the shock of the two of them, Wang was shocked and angry, although he also respected the high priest of the Black Village. But compared with the person he liked, he felt unwilling. However, this matter has been decided, and it is not something he can interfere with or change. The only thing he can do now is to quickly forget Jianlan, end this short and passionate crush, because, in a few days, she will become the bride of Tanling, the chief priest of Heizhai. At the same time, she will also be the wife of the leader of Heizhai. She will become a woman that he cannot covet at all. That's right. Tanling's request to Jianlan is very simple. It is something she can easily do, and everything depends on herself. As for why he wanted to marry Jianlan, the reason was also very plain and simple. She had never been seen naked before. Jianlan had seen it, so she had to be responsible for him. The words were convincing, leaving Jianlan no chance to refute. Although it was not said explicitly, Tanling also gave her some hints. If she could not become his closest person, then anyone who offended him to this extent would become a dead person. In that situation at that time, she heard the terrifying word of becoming a dead person again. Jianlan's mind suddenly twitched, and she immediately agreed. When she calmed down, she slowly came to her senses. What a joke. Staying in the village as an NPC's wife? What about her 2 guilds in the Arctic North and the Kingdom of Sand? Not to mention, she is now the president of 2 large guilds, and a group of people are eagerly waiting for her to return. Just from Tanling's behavior, It can be inferred that the atmosphere of this black village is extremely feudal and conservative. What's the difference between her future life and half of her body buried in the ground? A true wife of the village chief. The wedding was scheduled for 3 days later. Jianlan felt that she could not sit still and wait for death. She had to find a chance to escape. The game world was so big. Could it be that Tanling could find her at the end of the world? Jianlan made up her mind that night. However, she never found a suitable opportunity. Because, since returning to the village, villagers from Aya's family kept coming to help arrange the marriage of the high priest. This was a top priority in the Black Village. Jianlan could only stay alone until night fell. It was a dark and windy night. If she didn't run now, when would she run? Jianlan left the house quietly, without any hesitation or lingering. She didn't dare to light the lamp. So she groped her way to the gate of the Black Village. Chapter 112. Perhaps she was too nervous, so that after Jianlan left the Black Village, she felt incredible. She escaped all the way. Not only did she not encounter any obstacles, but no one discovered it. But it may also be because it was dark. However, this also largely offset her guilt and sin for leaving without saying goodbye. After all, as the bride of the high priest Tanling, she was married from Aya and a Wang's family. As a result, she ran away, and most people in the village would blame Aya and a Wang. But now it seems that the people in the village have no sense of defense, and she escaped in the middle of the night. So it can't be blamed on Aya and a Wang. Jianlan was relieved. She finally left that strange place. What made her feel excited was that her light computer bracelet lit up. In fact, her light computer bracelet was always online, but it showed that it was turned off and had no power. After leaving the Black Village, communication was restored. She can call upon her optical computer and props in the warehouse at will. The truth is self-evident. To put it simply, the area where the Black Village is located has some special buffs, which can even block the communication signals in the game, putting the player in an offline state. Of course, superpowers and weapons cannot be used. When the player arrives there, he will become exactly the same as ordinary villagers, that is, NPCs in this game. Moreover, the people in the Black Village can eat ordinary human food, and it seems that there is no such thing as nutrient solution. After thinking about it for a while, Jianlan suddenly felt a chill. This kind of setting. Isn't that the real world? Black Village is the first completely different area she encountered after entering the game. There are no telling how many areas like this there are in the game. They seem to be spliced together with the game world. And that high priest, according to the reaction of the assassins said by the Night Moon Guild, they seem to be very afraid of him. The reason for fear is that they cannot use their supernatural powers in Black Village. So will they let the high priest deal with them? What kind of existence is this high priest? He looks like a person in the game. From the golden bow that glows red in his hand, it can be seen that his combat power is definitely on the list. Or, comparing him with the players on the list is the biggest insult to him. It might be more appropriate to describe him as an undead NPC. What role does he play in the Black Village? There are too many mysteries. Jianlan couldn't figure it out for a while. However, if there is a chance, she will investigate it again. However, definitely not now. After the brief surprise of the recovery of her supernatural power, Jianlan's heart sank instantly, because she saw the most recent message, which was sent when they were sitting together on the tricycle driven by Dragonfly. Since then, everyone has lost contact, and no one has sent her a message. Jianlan became nervous and inevitably worried and afraid. Her most important task next was to find her companions as soon as possible. Jianlan used her identity as the guild president to try to check their locations. But she didn't know until she looked. And she was even more shocked. Guild system feedback. The player does not exist. One is like this, and the other two are also like this. Yin Lulu and Xiao Lu are bound to the Dawn Guild in the Arctic North, and Ji Qingqing is bound to the Apocalypse Guild in the Sand Country. But without exception, Jianlan couldn't find them. There are two possibilities for this sentence in the system feedback. Either they are no longer in the guild where Jianlan is, so she can't find them, or they were also trapped in a strangely set area, and the game information was temporarily blocked. However, such places usually hide unimaginable unknowns and dangers. Jianlan had been to the pre-copy of the Tsar's mausoleum and knew the dangers. The two she had been to were not the most dangerous. The third one she had never set foot in. Almost all the elite players of the Apocalypse Guild at that time were trapped in it. So, instead of believing that others were trapped somewhere and couldn't get out, it was better to pray that they just quit the guild. At least, it won't be dangerous. Jianlan thought so in her heart. But not long after, someone answered her doubts. Although, it was in an extremely unfriendly way. No, it was in a way that wanted her life. A knife energy slashed straight at her back. Enter the battle. Health. -120, 9888. The familiar system reminder sound, and the feedback of the body being heard made Jianlan suddenly wake up. Lost 1.2 million health? Too scary, what is that? She stood up and turned her head. At this moment, she realized that there were people standing behind her. Oh my god! The guy who made the move was stunned. His critical hit even had a double critical hit. Under normal circumstances, if you are attacked by surprise, you are doomed. To be honest, if you are lucky, even a tank player can be killed in 1 second. But when I hit this guy, it was like hitting cotton, no damage at all. It wasn't completely harmless. It tickled the back of Jianlan, who had 30 million HP. Not only the AUS sniper who made the move, but also the other players, who had been squatting here, waiting for an opportunity to strike, were deeply shocked. Sure enough, the guild's high attention and warnings, and the terrifying rumors about the president from the low-level map, were not groundless. This is why the guild ordered that Jianlan, the #1 threat, must be wiped out. Because Yayue Guild President's younger brother Fang Zuzu did something he wanted in the Sand Country, which is now considered to be absolutely stupid, and thus brought about his own death. And from the fact that Jianlan persevered and came all the way to the evil Mist Swamp to avenge Ji Hao, the former president of the Apocalypse Guild, it can be seen that it is impossible to win over Jianlan, unless they can hand over Fang Zuzu like this. There may be a chance for cooperation, but as long as the president Han Wang is there, this matter will be a fantasy. Even if it drags down the entire guild, he will protect his brother. So, they invited the guild's top psychic player Chu Qi. Chu Qi is apparently an elite member of the Yayue Guild, which is also known to the members of the Yayue Guild. However, they only heard that there is such a powerful player in the guild who can summon insect plagues, but few people have actually seen her face. Therefore, only the core members of the guild know that Chu Qi is not a real person who exists in the same time and space as them. To be more precise, she is a jar. She is enshrined in the guild shrine. The guild prays to the jar and gets what they want. Of course, they will also pay a price equal to the wish. At first, the players who are responsible for guarding the shrine will also be curious. They want to see what is in the jar. But after opening the lid and seeing what was inside the jar, his heart suddenly stopped. His sleep state went completely red. His brain went dark, and he was disconnected. The next day, his guild members saw the body of the member who had long been dead. There were no injuries on the body, no signs of fighting, and not even a drop of blood. It was as if he had died of fright. The panic this caused in the guild was even more terrifying than the fact that he had seen what was inside. As time went by, no one dared to explore the mystery and origin of the jar. Thus, the name Chu Qi gradually became, in the eyes of the guild members, an image of a female player who lived in seclusion. But one thing has never changed from beginning to end. That is the powerful power from Chu Qi, which is recognized by everyone. It is a power that can be compared with the natural disasters that occur naturally in the game, which is equivalent to the existence of a god. Someone in the Yayue Guild prayed to Chu Qi, hoping to obtain tools that can destroy the enemies of the Yayue Guild. Chu Qi fulfilled the wish of the petitioner, and the bone flute appeared on the altar of the shrine. The bone flute that appeared after the prayer could summon the most terrible poisonous dragonfly in the evil fog swamp, attacking the enemy that the petitioner wanted to destroy, as well as all creatures around the enemy, and fighting to the death. Jianlan was entangled by the poisonous dragonfly for a long time. If it weren't for Tanling, she wouldn't know how to get rid of this thing that entangled her. Although the dragonfly's poison couldn't kill her immediately, after being bitten by the poisonous dragonfly, the feeling of excruciating pain was not something that ordinary people could bear. Without the restriction of this weapon, Jianlan didn't know how such a person had the courage to appear in front of her. It was also because she had been hiding her abilities for a long time that players who had not come into contact with her could not understand her strength. But since these people dared to stop her halfway, she had no scruples and would not show mercy. At this time, the arrow fired by the Night Moon sniper had no positive feedback on Jianlan. The discussion about Jianglan's numerical value suddenly exploded at this inappropriate time. They speculated, how high is Jianglan's defense value? Because no one could imagine that what really made Jianglan unscathed was her health, which was comparable to that of a world boss. Their first reaction was that Jianglan's defense value may be dozens of times higher than the tank with the highest ability rating in their guild. After all, there was an experiment done during the players' competition. The tank was hit by a sniper's critical hit, and its health bar was reduced to 1/5. It was to the point where the blood-locking amulet was almost shattered. According to the information we know, Jianglan is just a per-type psychic. And the things she prayed for were even more bizarre. Food. Could it be that it was because of the special effects of those foods? It was not so easy to associate with it at ordinary times, but after such a weird scene appeared in front of them, it became easy to associate with it. However, Jianglan did not give them too much time to verify. It was you just now. Jianglan took out the white bow and fought back. Yi Yu set up a protective wall in front of him. Never mind why he made such a big move when he saw the white attribute weapon. His muscle reaction told him that it would be done if he did this. So, bang! With a gunshot, the person she aimed at fell to the ground. Click. Familiar, but a subtle cracking sound that made every player shudder. Anyone who was close could hear it. Jianglan said expressionlessly, "This is for you." The player with sniper talent, who had just attacked her, was hit by the white bow bullet that penetrated the protective wall. The blood-locking amulet shattered, his blood volume became a drop of blood, and he fell to the ground and lost consciousness. When Jianglan did this, everyone was stunned. Not only the defensive players in the front row, there happened to be a hole in their protective wall, which was the mark left by Jianglan's bullet. It is conceivable that, if they had not set up a protective wall in time to offset some of the damage, this bullet would have penetrated a few people before stopping. It was so terrifying. The members of the Night Moon hunting team were as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Jianglan really refreshed their cognition. How could a person be so strong? Also, was she really just an A-level per player? Now it seems that the answer is obviously no. She is more terrifying than imagined. Without the bonus of their own special power, it can be said that they don't even have a 10% chance of winning against her. Jianglan just moved her fingers casually, and their blood-locking amulets would all explode. And there was only one reason why they dared to block Jianglan so openly. They got something new from the godlike player Chu Qi. At this time, the sky in the east was turning pale, and the faint light in the dense forest was getting brighter. It was almost dawn, but as the other party took out a drum-like object, the light was extinguished in an instant. Time went back, as if it was back to the dark night. Buzz 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 Jianglan, falling into silence. There were no stars in the sky, and it was still a dark night. Jianglan's hands were trembling slightly. She couldn't see clearly, but she could hear clearly. The wasp flapped its wings. The dragonfly tide died out. But the wasp came again. She was most afraid of insects. They were her lifelong enemies. Suddenly, she was bitten. The neurotoxin brought a piercing pain. This bite was much more painful than the bullet fired by Yi Yu's sneaky sniper. At least, Jianglan felt the negative debuff of being attacked. She lost 100,000 HP, which was not much. With the light of the game computer, she could also see the appearance of these wasps. It has a rat face, with a long and thin stinger on its mouth. Dense rat bees surrounded her. Jianglan raised a protective shield to protect herself. But she couldn't resist the bee stings that were like steel needles and pierced holes in the protective shield. She turned the white bow into spray mode and pressed the nozzle. In an instant, a fire dragon rushed out. However, the fire dragon did not last long and was completely extinguished. Jianglan was confused. They are not afraid of fire? It should be said that they feed on fire. The flames did not disappear, but were swallowed up. There was more to it than that. Jianglan was only bitten a few times, but she suddenly found that her health loss was multiplying by 10. 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, as she was constantly attacked by the rat bees. This mild number was still jumping, increasing every 5 seconds. Jianglan was startled, and her 30 million health points didn't seem to be a lot. Chapter 113. As her health continued to decrease, Jianglan's health bar was actually pushed down by a large grid, which made her tremble with fear. Since she upgraded and became more powerful, she had never experienced such a large fluctuation in health. Besides, the rat bees were endless, and her protective shield could not support her for too long. According to the speed of the increase in health, she would be depleted sooner or later. What was even more terrifying was that, no matter how much blood-replenishing potion she took, her health could not be restored. Obviously, she needs the help of a nurse. Especially a nurse with the ability to increase health by percentage. However, she is alone now, without even a companion. Let alone a nurse with such a unique ability. Or, if she can kill all these rat bees, it would be fine. But this seems to be more difficult than the former. The setting of not being afraid of fire is almost equivalent to the existence of a bug. In fact, these rat bees feed on fire. It was visible to the naked eye that the rat bees in the area where her flames hit directly had instantly increased in size, by many times compared to the surrounding rat bees. Now they looked nothing like rats, but more like weasels. But Jianlan did not give up. She quickly changed the elemental mode of the white bow, and transformed the flames into lightning. Crackling. A burst of electric sparks like welding exploded in the dark forest, and to a certain extent, suppressed the rat bees that were constantly surrounding them. Unfortunately, there were too many of them. Even though Jianlan did not stop for a moment, these rat bees continued to attack. Only 1/3 of her health was left. She was a little panicked until this moment. She once thought that she was as powerful as the world boss, but she ignored one thing after all. Even the dungeon boss could be defeated by the player. Moreover, her mere 30 million health points were nothing compared to the boss. However, even when she was on the verge of destruction, she was trying various methods to delay her death. Suddenly, a beam of light shone from the sky above her head. Jianlan looked up and saw that it was actually daybreak. Actually, it was not daybreak, but the rat bees above her head had split open. The beam of light above her head was like a signal, and the rat bees around her also peeled off like melting clay sculptures. At this time, her health was only 500,000. Then, she saw a familiar but strange person appear in front of her. Strange because she had just known him for a short time. Familiar because she had just escaped from the black village he ruled. Jianlan looked at Tanling in shock. Compared to Jianlan's shock and disbelief, Tanling still had his calm and composed expression. To be honest, when Jianlan saw him taking a shower, his heart was a little shaken. The plan was about to succeed. Jianlan would disappear from this game world from now on, and they would have one less worry that kept them awake at night. As a result, an undead NPC suddenly appeared. In the eyes of the people in Yeyue Guild who were hunting Jianlan, the High Priest Tanling was equivalent to an undead NPC. He also fed Jianlan a pill. Since she was about to die, she might as well try it out. In just a few minutes, Jianlan had already taken dozens of pills that she had pressed herself, so Tanling's pill wouldn't hurt. Since Tanling fed her personally, her lips touched Tanling's fingers. When Tanling felt her soft lips, his expression finally showed a hint of emotion. Shy. Jianlan suddenly thought of this word. But on second thought, indeed, it is normal for Tanling to be shy. After all, he is a feudal man who must marry the woman who saw his body naked. But although Tanling is shy about his fiancée, even if it is a runaway fiancée, at least for the time being, he has not shown anger in anger. But facing the haunting Night Moon Guild pursuer, who almost killed his fiancée, Tanling did not show any mercy. He raised his bow and arrow, and shot through the leader's body in a few shots. Before the man could react, he went offline and disappeared. Where was the blood-locking amulet? It didn't work at all. This action scared the other guild members. Now it seems that compared to Jianlan's attack, the life-saving setting of the blood-locking amulet can still work. But this man with a golden red bow and arrow just skipped all the nonsense and wanted to kill people. It was so terrifying. But in fact, Tanling once gave them a chance at the gate of the Black Village, but they didn't know how to cherish it. Instead, they challenged his endurance again and again, and touched his weak spot. In the past, his weak spot was only his Black Village and its inhabitants. Now, there is also his fiancée, Jianlan. Jianlan was by Tanling's side, and she could see Tanling's movements most directly. His archery movements were the same as when she killed the 9-headed bird in the Black Mountain Demon King's dojo in the dark world of the Tsar's mausoleum. This also further confirmed Jianlan's original idea that the High Priest of the Black Village in front of her was the High Priest she had seen in the dungeon. He really came out with me. For a moment, Jianlan was very glad that I had helped him before. Perhaps because Jianlan's gaze stayed on me for a little too long, Tanling looked sideways. The remaining survivors took the opportunity to escape, but the ground under their feet seemed to have become a stopped pulley conveyor belt, freezing them in their original position. Escape was impossible, and begging for mercy might still give them a glimmer of hope. A good man would not suffer a loss in front of him. We were also forced to obey the guild's order to kill you. With tears in her eyes, she felt extremely wronged. Like a victim. Actually, this is not our true intention at all. Yes, please let us go. We really just want to survive. If we don't come to kill you, Yayue will not let us go either. Perhaps when she first entered the game, Jianlan still believed that human nature is good. In this game, everything the player does is just to survive. And there is nothing wrong with it. But after this period of time, the intrigues among the big guilds, from the initial Killing Guild, to the later Apocalypse, and now the Night Moon, the liberation of human nature, the generation of evil thoughts, may only take a moment, but to re-establish a friendly and peaceful order and the relationship between people is very difficult. However, Jianlan felt that, if she was given some more time, she could do it. Then you quit the guild, Jianlan said. This would probably be the only possibility for her to let them go. This was a probing statement, and it easily revealed whether they were truly begging for mercy, or were just pretending to be submissive. Most people were stunned when they heard this. Only a small number of extreme fanatics refused verbally, with many reasons. But in short, if they withdrew from the organization, their fate would be even worse. Jianlan knew what they were thinking, and they had no intention of repenting. Of course, they would soon pay the price. But Jianlan did not want to use violence against them. It just so happens that this is also a screening process. You can go now, she said to those Yayue members who swore to never leave the guild. Those people simply couldn't believe their ears. Couldn't believe what they heard. What? She actually let them go? It seems that in this world, loyalty is still useful. Although, what forced them to say those words? Whether it was true, or whether they were reluctant to leave the protection of the Yayue Guild. Only they themselves knew it. Now that the words have been spoken, there is no reason to regret. Jianlan looked at Tanling. She knew that it was Tanling's magic that bound these people and prevented them from escaping. Tanling was also a little surprised. Facing the people who wanted to kill her, Jianlan was still so kind. Perhaps she would only be cruel to herself. Tanling was annoyed, and his displeasure deepened. It's not jealousy, but he was just unhappy. If he hadn't seen that Jianlan was dying, he would never have helped her. He knew that Jianlan had escaped. Every blade of grass and every tree in the Black Village was under his control. He just wanted to see where his fiancée was going in the middle of the night. Unexpectedly, he came to the right place. If it weren't for him, Jianlan would have died. Now, Jianlan wanted to let these people go. Forget it. Just consider it as a good deed for their wedding. Anyway, Jianlan would not be hurt again when she was by his side in the future. Tanling turned his fingers in a circle, and those people were able to stand up. Their surprise turned into ecstasy at this moment. Don't regret it. Perhaps to deepen the idea that they can't regret letting them go, they added this sentence persistently. But more of them turned around and ran away. The 5 pursuers who stayed behind, whose eyes were about to fall to the ground in shock, disappeared at the end of the jungle. In contrast to the group who refused to quit, some of these people agreed to quit the club immediately, while others hesitated for a moment before deciding to quit. But no matter what, the final result is the same. They are no longer members of the Yayue Guild. First, they have long had enough of the Yayue Guild's bossing them around, including doing many things that go against their ideas and harm the world. Second, quitting the guild can save lives, which is human nature according to common sense. However, the scene that just happened in front of them pushed their expectations in a completely unexpected direction. Jianlan let go of Yayue's pursuers so easily, and even let the tiger go back to the mountain. Those people were not punished at all, it was just a minor incident. In contrast, those who were obedient got nothing good. The act of quitting the guild was equivalent to breaking with the guild, and they could not survive in the evil fog swamp. The Night Moon Guild would not allow any betrayers to exist. After dawn, the management of the Night Moon would learn about this through the guild members who returned to report, and would also learn that they were turned into traitors in order to survive, and they would definitely exaggerate the matter, and with imagination, the guild management would most likely be furious. They will be put on the guild's wanted list immediately. In the Evil Mist Swamp, the Night Moon Guild is almost so powerful that they can cover the sky with one hand. There will be no place for them here. The rest of their lives will be spent in fear and insecurity. Thinking of this, everyone is in a low mood. Just then, a person squatted down in front of him. She is a guild leader. The game light brain touched, and a line of words appeared on the screen. Do you want to join the Dawn Guild, Evil Miss Swamp Branch? Chapter 114. It turns out that there is no guild, but there is a new guild to join. Instead of wandering around, it is better to choose a reliable and powerful backer. The remaining people almost didn't think much, and all joined the guild founded by Jian Lan in the Evil Miss Swamp. Because it was newly founded, there are not many people in the guild at present. However, all the affairs of the guild are available. As long as there is money, there will be NPCs introduced by the guild to help her complete these things, and she doesn't need to do it herself at all. And Jian Lan's money was simply not enough to spend. Through these people, she even learned a shocking news. No wonder she couldn't find her companions, because they were all captured by the people of the Yayue Guild, long before their car fell off the cliff. So, in fact, the only person who entered the Black Village was Jian Lan. So now there is a very clear thing in front of her. If she wants to save her companions, she must go to the Yayue Guild. As for why the Night Moon Guild wanted to spare the lives of her companions, even if the rebellious members of the Night Moon Guild didn't say it, Jian Lan could guess it more or less. Because she was still alive. Jian Lan was also extremely grateful that she was still alive. After the members of the new guild in the Evil Miss Swamp returned to the new base, Jian Lan did not delay. As soon as she went out, she found that Tan Ling was looking at her. She almost forgot that she had a fiancé. Tan Ling's good temper and patience far exceeded her imagination. Even after she ran away from marriage, which was an almost unforgivable crime in the primitive village, he still chose to save her and helped her deal with those people from Yayue. Jian Lan was grateful to him. However, she had to go today, save her companions, and kill that damn Fang Zuzu, and help Ji Hao get revenge. Jian Lan's determination was extremely firm. Tan Ling understood. However, people like them could not interfere in the affairs of secular players, nor could they leave their place for a long time. Tan Ling's coming out this time was already a very risky behavior. Will you come back? Tan Ling only asked this question. When this is over, come back to me and become my wife. He only said the first half. Jian Lan can think about the second half on her own. After all, if they separate now, it's unknown when they will meet again in the future. And, even if Jian Lan doesn't come back, Tan Ling can't do anything to her. After a moment of silence, Jian Lan answered him. I will come back. Hearing these 4 words, a faint light flickered in Tan Ling's eyes. If so, then he understood. Tan Ling took out a beautiful little box from his pocket. There was a flame emblem on the surface of the box. This kind of box is usually used to hold jewelry. Tan Ling handed it to Jian Lan. Is this a souvenir for himself? Jian Lan opened the box. A round chocolate bean was inside. Jian Lan was puzzled. Tan Ling looked calm. I made the great rejuvenation pill to replenish your body. Her eyelids twitched unconsciously. De Huan Dan. Jian Lan pinched the chocolate in her hand with her fingers. Tan Ling stared at her without moving. When receiving a gift from someone, especially a gift of food, you should eat it immediately. In this case, then Jian Lan asked tentatively. Did you eat it? Yes. Tan Ling responded. So, the pill in the small precision box went into Jian Lan's mouth. She had imagined this thing to taste like chocolate. This preconceived notion made Jian Lan's face turn green when she tasted it. She couldn't tell what it tasted like, but it was definitely not delicious. But fortunately, that thing was easy to digest. As soon as it entered her mouth, it dissolved and she swallowed it quickly. When she came to her senses, Tan Ling was no longer there. He returned to the Black Village, waiting for Jian Lan to come back. According to the information provided by the former members of the Yayue Guild, Jian Lan successfully found the specific location of the Yayue base, and she also knew the various traps hidden on that road, and she avoided them one by one. This time, she went to the Night Moon Guild, and she was determined to win. The manifestation in her body was a constant surge of heat. Later, she realized that it was not the heat generated by her surging heart, but the energy brought by the level increase. When she was in the Sand Country, her level was still 25. 25 was like a hurdle that always stuck her. Although her experience was gradually increasing, she could not reach the level of upgrading. Otherwise, her health would double directly. It was difficult to accumulate the experience needed to upgrade. And besides, she was almost invincible at that time. Any attack was like tickling her. So, she didn't care whether she upgraded or not. It was not until she entered the real advanced map of the game that she slowly felt a little powerless. It would be better if the level could be higher. After all, who would complain about having too much health? This feeling reached its peak when she was attacked by rat bees. In fact, she almost died from the attack of rat bees. Fortunately, Tan Ling appeared in time and saved her. Jianlan was grateful to Tan Ling, and her promise to him was also sincere. Sincerity for sincerity. She got Tan Ling's most precious item. It was also the only bug in this game. The Great Rejuvenation Pill. Oh no! It should be called the full level pill now. Jianlan watched her level go up. 26, 27, 36, 37, 106, 107. Really? Don't go up anymore. Jianlan was stunned. She thought the level would stop at 100. Right? But the level soon broke through 100. So 500 is about right? But after reaching 500, her game panel is still rising. Oh my god, you know. At the beginning, she was just an F-level scumbag. Now, her comprehensive rating, I wonder how many SS will be added. When most people reach her level, their HP is estimated to be only a few 100 million at most. However, due to her own special settings, her HP may be hundreds of millions times of hundreds of millions, which is a terrifying astronomical number that will be suspected of being a phony number if it is typed out. If her HP increases, even if she encounters those weird poisonous insects again, even if she keeps losing HP, it will take several months, and she is already invincible. Then, after looking at her other panel attributes, people will understand what the real despair of the enemy is. The 5 elements plus poison resistance directly reach 100%. Appearing alone at the entrance of the Night Moon Guild base is even more jaw-dropping than her ability to break through numerous obstacles and appear unscathed. There is a traitor in our base. The traitors are naturally those players who never return and quit the Night Moon Guild on the spot. They will soon have a good harvest. But Jianlan, does she really not bring any helpers? Does she not take them seriously enough? What about her powerful ally? The guild members who were on guard soon discovered something strange and reported the situation to the guild leaders immediately. They originally wanted to lure Jianlan over, but now, Jianlan really came. Then let's proceed according to the original plan. Based on their understanding of Jianlan, they tailored a method to restrain her. Unfortunately, Jianlan was no longer the same Jianlan. Not only did these methods not work, but what was even more alarming was that Jianlan began to dismantle the door with her bare hands. Countless SSS-level psychics are like ants in front of Jianlan. She can crush them into pieces with just a wave of her hand. Her level, 530,000. In fact, with her power, it would be easy for her to destroy the blood-locking amulet. If she wanted to, the entire Night Moon Guild would be wiped out in an instant. However, until this moment, Jianlan did not abuse her power to do something that violated human nature. I don't know if it's because she was in the game for too short a time, or something else. She has her own life creed and principles. Yes, the Night Moon Guild is indeed full of evil, but each guild member is an individual. Rather than completely destroying them, she would rather give them a chance to correct themselves. She found Fang Zuzu's location with almost no effort. Fang Zuzu was recuperating in the medical cabin carefully built by the Night Moon Guild. At that time, although the puppet of the Lantern Ghost resisted most of the damage for him, he was actually affected a little. After all, his rating was really not high. 1 life for 1 life. He closed his eyes before he could even wail. Seeing his brother dead, the president of the Night Moon Guild was instantly furious. Even though he tried very hard to rush here, he was still a step too late. He didn't even see Fang Zuzu take his last breath. At this time, the interior of the Night Moon Guild was already in a mess. Han Chi angrily pressed the explosion button to blow all of Jianlan's companions into pieces. But the button he pressed only exploded a bunch of air. Yin Lulu and the others had been rescued by Jianlan a long time ago. And Han Chi also took his loyal subordinates and, fleeing from the base they had worked hard to build for many years. This place no longer belonged to him. After the great revenge, Jianlan's heart suddenly became empty. The long-cherished wish was achieved so easily, she felt a sense of unreality in her heart. Until Yin Lulu and Ji Qingqing hugged her waist and cried loudly, she felt a little warmth. She hugged them back. This scene was very touching. But due to his identity as a man, he was too embarrassed to join in. However, there was something he had wanted to say for a long time. Yang Hui scratched his head. When he was arrested, He was with Jianlan and his gang, so he was naturally labeled a traitor to the Yayue Guild. At that moment, he realized that the big guilds he could rely on were all unreliable. Those people only cared about their own interests and could be easily abandoned. But Jianlan would risk her life for the sake of her guild members. And she treated every guild member as her own family. She was the good guild leader who was truly trustworthy and loved. "Can I join your guild?" Yang Huai still said what was in his heart. Jianlan looked up at the shy man. Coincidentally, a ray of rising sun in the sky shone on Jianlan's face, giving her face a layer of golden light. The evil mist swamp welcomed the dawn. She nodded. "Welcome." Chapter 115. The news of the disintegration of the Night Moon Guild spread throughout the evil mist swamp in an instant. This just proves the saying, good news doesn't go out, but bad news travels 1,000 miles. Because the Night Moon Guild had a lot of bad deeds in the evil mist swamp. When the guild suffered a tragic experience of being annihilated, not only did no one sympathize with it, but they wanted to set off firecrackers to celebrate. Of course, there is no such thing as firecrackers in this game. Not only is it dangerous, it also pollutes the environment. They just fired shots into the sky, bang, bang, bang. However, the bullets inside were all replaced with ribbons. It is no exaggeration to say that the evil mist swamp was as lively as the new year. However, they were happy only at the beginning when they knew that the Night Moon Guild was finished. Finally, God opened his eyes. Maybe a higher level being came to the evil mist swamp to punish evil and promote good. I don't know whether it promoted good or not, but it must have punished evil. Usually only people in high-level maps can go to low-level maps to act tyrannically, just like they did when they went to the Kingdom of Sand before. Because the players of high-level maps are more powerful, they have a more complete understanding of the game rules, which is an advantage from the beginning. Until they heard that the guild had killed the Night Moon Guild, which directly ignored the rating difference and crushed all the SSS level high players to the ground, was actually Apocalypse from the Land of Sand. Everyone couldn't sit still. The old side of Night Moon was said to be occupied by new players, and occupying a place for the guild to claim it as their own is also a behavior allowed in the game. What's more, Yayue's former president Han Wang has already fled to who knows where, including those names that terrify people. It can be said that, on the player rankings, the high-level players in the evil mist swamp have disappeared by more than half in an instant. Although the player rankings cannot show the real information of the players, they are all half-guessing, but the facts show everything. There are really a large number of players on the rankings who have disappeared from the evil mist swamp. In their place is the mysterious female player who ranks first. Why do we talk about mysterious female players? Because the player avatars on the leaderboard are all silhouettes. The previous silhouette had a round head, and even if the hair stuck out of the head, it was obvious at a glance that it was a man. But the current silhouette has long hair. Add to that the lines of the avatar, it looks like a woman no matter how you look at it. Could it be a cross-dressing guy who likes women's clothes? Good guess. Even if you haven't seen the existence of this special group in the game, you can't completely classify it as non-existent. Right? This is not a rigorous attitude towards the game. Even in such a game, if you make a small mistake, you may lose your life. The remaining elite members of the guilds gathered together to discuss this topic. However, even if she is a cross-dresser, she is still a truly awesome female player. There is no need to doubt that she must have come from another map, because there are very few female players in the evil mist swamp, and not many of them are awesome. If it was someone from one of their guilds, then it couldn't be concealed at all, and they would know it once it was on the list. This has indeed become a topic worth exploring. So, after opening the champagne formally, there is no champagne to open in reality. On the topic of Yayue's death, everyone couldn't help but worry about the future of their own guild. After all, after killing Yayue, it's unknown whether these terrible guys will take further actions in the evil mist swamp. They can't say they are absolutely safe. Just when they were wondering if they should form an alliance to jointly resist these powerful foreign enemies after the destruction of the Night Moon Guild, they learned another shocking news. What? Was there only one person who went to the Night Moon Guild at that time? In other words, one person challenged the entire guild, killed all those people, and scared Han Wang, who possessed the god of the evil mist swamp, so much that he ran away. The thing called the god of the evil mist swamp may not be well known to ordinary players, but it is no secret among the elite players in these large guilds. Han Wang himself is just an S-level warrior. He can lead the guild to the second place in reputation in the evil mist swamp, but the first place in reality. What he relies on is nothing but the holy object he got from a certain copy. The holy object is a jar-like thing. Everyone has only seen it once and has never opened it. In addition to one's own awesome strength, another factor that can help one survive safely in this game is also very important, which is to take care of oneself. They all have this thought: don't be too curious about things that don't belong to you, otherwise you will be punished. However, according to the spies planted in the other guilds of each guild, Han Wang named this altar Tuchi, and he would go there to worship whenever he had nothing to do. Suddenly thinking that Han Wang had such a secret weapon that was comparable to that of a god, the fear in everyone's heart only increased. That person killed Yue and drove Han Wang out of his lair, which means that she was not afraid of Suchi's power at all. Oh my god, is she still human? Then without Chuchi's help, how should they deal with this person, who is not sure whether he is a friend or an enemy? Everyone was extremely anxious, and the atmosphere of the meeting became extremely solemn. Just then, someone knocked on the door. The knock on the door first startled them, and then they were furious. Who is so tactless? Didn't they see that they were busy? The informant didn't want to offend the bosses, but what else could he do? The person who asked him to report was a member of the guild of a super awesome player, who ranked first in the player rankings. The attendees opened their mouths wide, dumbfounded. This means that they don't need to guess anymore, because they can't guess right anyway. The person just announced himself. Dawn. These two sunny and righteous words were passed on by everyone. In fact, I didn't want to keep repeating them, but I couldn't control myself. Why? Because they have never heard of this name. There are generally two reasons for not hearing the name. One is that this guild does not belong to any map they know now. After all, on the surface, not counting the areas that the game has not yet opened, such as the Magma Hell, the Evil Fog Swamp should be considered the most difficult map to survive in this world. However, this is for low power rating and middle and lower level players. It is still quite easy for high level players to survive in the Evil Fog Swamp. But no matter who it is, no one has ever heard of the existence of this guild. Parallel to the Evil Mist Swamp, the slightly lower level map is the Acid Rain Forest. Both of them belong to the landform of the Primitive Forest. The climate of the Evil Mist Swamp is relatively humid and hot, while the Acid Rain Forest is abnormally cold and wet. And it is very likely that the temperature will often be below zero. There is an interface between the Acid Rain Forest and the Evil Mist Swamp, which is relatively hidden and difficult to find, unless you enter it by mistake. It is not easy to find that place. But these are not difficult for high-level players. Now many players in the Evil Mist Swamp came from the Acid Rain Forest, and they have close ties with some high-level players who stayed in the Acid Rain Forest. The relationship was good in the first few years, but now it has become much weaker. People's relationships are like growing flowers, which need to be watered frequently to ensure freshness and survival. Anyway, they know that. When they left, they had never heard of such a powerful guild called Dawn in the Acid Rain Forest. Then, there is only one other possibility. Dawn is a little-known guild. Moreover, it has only come to the fore in recent years. You guessed right. Dawn is indeed a small guild, and it is a small guild from the extremely cold north. Because the headquarters of the Dawn Guild is in the extremely cold north. The extremely cold. The north. Puff, a mouthful of blood. Even if it is a guild from the Sand Country, they would have accepted it. Who would have thought that? It is actually from the lowest level map of this game. It can no longer be described as a counterattack, a complete genetic mutation, a complete reincarnation, a complete transformation. Jianglan is a real beneficiary of the benefits brought by the upgrade. However, her own special blood volume setting is the fundamental reason why she can become an invincible player. Even if another person has the same situation as her, it is impossible to achieve the same goal as her. Let alone breaking into Yeyue's door, whether Chu Chi will be scared and dare not do evil. It's another matter. And now, this godlike player asked her guild members to come to their guild. There was no hostility, just a normal visit. Shock. At the same time, she was the player who jumped to the top of the ranking overnight. Shock again. After hearing the purpose of this messenger player, the guild leaders and high players, who had experienced many twists and turns, were so shocked that they almost fainted. Some who were not strong enough to bear it fell off their chairs directly. What? This new killer, the leader of the guild, the future master of the Evil Mist Swamp, President Jiang Lan, wanted to treat them to a meal. Chapter 116. Yes, I heard it right, it's the word eating. However, diplomatic language should be more rigorous, not just eating, but also some other friendly and mutual assistance, hoping to form an alliance and other polite words. In short, I hope that the evil Miss Swamp will no longer be intrigued, and it will become a peaceful and free area. But most guild players don't think so. There is no free lunch in the world. Be prepared for danger in times of peace. Those who relax their vigilance and easily trust outsiders, the good days are probably coming to an end. They firmly believe that Hongnan Banquet, Jianglan's invitation to them must be Hongnan Banquet. What kind of banquet? There is no banquet to eat in this world. It must be to trick all of them, the high-level players, and kill them all. She felt that it was too troublesome to find their nests one by one. After all, each guild's base has a certain degree of secrecy, and it is not so easy to find. So, it is better to find a reason to gather them all together at once, and catch them all in one fell swoop. Some guild leaders confirmed this idea, while others had different views. They really went. So, while those guild leaders who did not go, secretly rejoiced that they had smart brains, and saw through the scheming Dawn Guild. And they were considering the countermeasures of rejection, whether they needed to find some help from other maps, because it would be bad if the Dawn Guild attacked them. And the other guild leaders had already drunk and dreamed at that friendly banquet. The game world is too cruel. There is no good food, no fun, and you have to worry about nothing all the time. If you say that when you first use your power, it seems that you have the experience of being on par with gods. But all of this is just to keep them alive. Finally, in one battle after another, they no longer smile, and their hearts become hard. Many people have had enough, and death may be a relief. Most importantly, they all want to see this legendary high-level player. The brave enjoy the world first, mainly enjoy the food. After going to the newly renovated and upgraded Dawn Guild branch in the evil Miss Swamp, everyone's jaws never closed. Not only because they went there, they really saw a huge self-service restaurant, but also because they ate so much here that their faces were greasy. Their jaws never closed. In the past, they could taste, all were fake food created by illusionists. The appearance could deceive their brains, but once they were in their mouths, their eyebrows were twisted like twisted dough sticks. That kind of food, it was better not to eat. Now, being able to eat these things in Jianglan's guild is like a fucking dream. No, it's even better than a dream. It's like returning to the real world. As long as the food system is not restored in this world, the players here will have to drink hard to swallow nutrient solution. Several guild leaders have changed their previous fear and prejudice against Jianglan, and even mustered up the courage to ask Jianglan to buy these foods. What kind of bad guy can someone who can make delicious food be? After all, there are still many people in their guild who haven't had this kind of good food. There are still many good people in the world. Unexpectedly, the guild leader's somewhat presumptuous words actually hit the softest part of Jianglan's heart. She suddenly felt that people are creatures that are more easily affected by the environment. Although the game atmosphere of the evil Miss Swamp is also created by the players to a certain extent, the environment will also force the players to do things they don't want to do. There is nothing wrong with wanting to survive, since the game will not interfere with the behavior of players. Then, let her do it. Jianglan's dream, at this moment, shines again. Moreover, with her current ability and influence, she can do these things. Shuguang Restaurant is back. But because the store is too big, it can be called Shuguang Hotel. It is not difficult to eat the food made by Jianglan. As the saying goes, when you open the door to do business, you will not refuse anyone. Although there is no clear rule, Shuguang Hotel will not accept any kind of people. But, at the moment of entering the door, or whether you can enter the door, it has already explained everything. That hidden rule. You cannot kill or take other players' names. And you cannot bully the weak. I don't know how the store owner judged these contents. But once they violated these rules, they could not even enter the door of Shuguang Hotel. And Shuguang Hotel does not provide package service. Justice strikes. Jianglan is committed to turning this bloody and brutal game into a friendly and peaceful farming game, so that everyone can live well without hurting others. Specialty store opened. Everyone found that supplying food raw materials to Jianglan's store was actually a very cost-effective deal. Because in the past, when they did world public tasks and fought those difficult bosses, they needed to drink a lot of potions from the mall. In this way, after deducting the potions, there were still a lot left. However, it is not difficult to make money. The simplest and most profitable way is, of course, to rob other players. But if they rob other players, there will be casualties, which is counterproductive and contrary to their original intention. At this point, they finally understood that, from the beginning, all they wanted was to stay alive. However, they had always been led by a mysterious force. There were fewer players who wanted to compete for fame and fortune. And everyone became calm and stopped fighting. Without fighting, fewer players died. And naturally fewer new players were pulled into the game. In just a few days, the friendliness index of the Evil Miss Swamp rose by several levels. Since the game was launched, a scene that had never appeared before appeared. The Evil Miss Swamp was about to end. The flag bearer Kaiwei was so frightened that she couldn't sleep all night. Spiritual consciousness is connecting. 10,000 words of blocked words are omitted here. Shang Jun looked indifferent on the opposite side. Kaiwei was not scolding him. But after all, the last map Jianlan had been to was in the Kingdom of Sand, which was under his jurisdiction. In this way, Jianlan could also be considered as someone from their side. And Kaiwei could only vent her anger on him. But what else could he do? After all, he was once a victim. As a victim, he might as well listen to his complaints. How pitiful, Shang Jun muttered in his heart. But after listening for a long time, it seemed that no one had mentioned the most important thing. Shang Jun suddenly said, "Have you checked the sales volume of the nutrient solution on your map?" As soon as these words came out, Kaiwei was stunned for a moment, and paused. Is there any connection? Shang Jun fell into silence. There was silence for a full half-minute. He took a deep breath. "Good night, I'm going to sleep. There is no time difference between the Kingdom of Sand and the Evil Miss Swamp." Kaiwei glanced at the sky outside the window. It was so bright, there was no need to turn on the lights. So he tried to make up, or maybe he went back to sleep. Anyway, it was impossible that Shang Jun hung up on him on purpose. His rank was much higher than that guy. He didn't dare. On the other side of the Kingdom of Sand, Shang Jun stood with his hands behind his back. It seemed that he was going to change his leader. Those who can fight are stupid, they can't even figure out this little account. Chapter 117. When a man in strange clothes appeared at the entrance of Shuguang Hotel, it showed that Kaiwei had come to his senses. No, it should be said that he had discovered that no one was buying the nutrient solution of the Evil Miss Swamp. The financial report of the Evil Miss Swamp map was a Waterloo. Even, in his email, in addition to the emails he sent to the players to scare them, there was also a letter of warning from the messenger of God to dismiss him. As a carefully developed super-large map, the Game Master will not give up the Evil Miss Swamp easily, just like the Sand Country. Therefore, once the regional economic income is sluggish, they will change the flag bearer of the map. It happened to be dinner time, and there were many players coming and going. Therefore, it was quite abrupt for Kaiwei to block the main entrance. Fortunately, they no longer need to fight for fame and fortune. And naturally they have no special worship and fear for these big NPCs. So much so that even Kaiwei didn't recognize him. "Are you going in or not?" They just thought this guy was weird. Kaiwei fell into silence. He had never been treated so lightly before. These ignorant ants. He was determined to teach them a lesson. Immediately, Kaiwei summoned the most terrible natural disaster of the Evil Miss Swamp. In an instant, the wind and clouds surged, and the sky suddenly became extremely dark. The dark blue mist surged from the dense forest in the distance. "Oh my God! It's poisonous fog!" In an instant, the players around him disappeared. However, the poisonous fog could not get close to the house in front of him. Gradually, he found that it was not that the poisonous fog could not get close, but that the poisonous fog that got close was all sucked into the vegetables planted in the backyard of the house, and turned into nutrients. Bang! 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 The plants bloomed, and the scene was gorgeous. The maturity time of the entire vegetable garden was advanced. Jianlan used her cooking pot to create fertilizer to improve the land. All the poisonous food in this world has been transformed into vegetables that can be harvested even by ordinary players. Now, the third batch has been cultivated. According to the original time plan, it will take about a month to mature. Thanks to the poisonous mist of Master Kaiwei, it can be regarded as a good deed with bad intentions, contributing to this purification cause. At this speed, I believe it will not be long before people in this world can eat food without toxins. They can plant in their own base, and they don't need to come to Jianlan's mealtime all the time. In this way, in another world, they can live their original life. Great ideas, to the superiors, are simply delusional. A mere mortal, and he wants to be a god. Saoi's anger filled his chest. Not only did he lose more than he gained, but he also had to show his loyalty to the Game Master. Unfortunately, He was facing Jianlan. 530,000 levels. Several trillion HP. Immune to all attribute attacks. Kaiwei hadn't even fought a single round with Jianlan before she ate a peanut that popped out of the white bow in her hand and disappeared. Jianlan then realized that the one who came to pick a fight wasn't a player, but a special NPC in the game. More powerful than the undead NPC. The regional flag bearer. Kaiwei didn't expect that she would die so quickly. Like a cannon fodder. You know. He actually had a lot of lines to say. But it was too late. He was already offline. However, his work badge was left on the ground. It was a glowing white object, which looked a bit like a rectangular object carved from white marble. If you must say, it was very similar to the badges used by ministers in ancient courts. It was the identity symbol of the flag bearer. Jianlan walked over and picked it up. She also felt it was a bit strange. The flag bearer. The flag bearer, in her impression, should be a flag. Jianlan carefully examined the white jade that was cold to the touch and looked like a wish. Suddenly, a mirror appeared at the end of the handle, and she saw her face clearly on it. In a flash, before she could react, a mechanical system sounded. Bannerman, Jianlan has been connected. Jianlan, falling into silence. She became the flag bearer of the evil mist swamp. No way. She became the flag bearer by killing the flag bearer? The most important thing is that she didn't go to find Kaiwei at all. But Kaiwei came to her on her own. Hula. After confirming that the work card was indeed held by the new flag bearer, the flag could be unfolded. So, Jianlan heard the realistic sound of a banner being unfurled. The brilliant sound of the wind roaring. It turned out that it was not a flag, the flag was inside the work card, and it was automatically retractable. Now, it unfolded all at once. At the same time, all the players' computers in the evil mist swamp were hijacked. Just like when the world boss was killed, the whole team reported it like a hooligan. Everyone saw the name of the new flag bearer of the evil mist swamp. Jianlan. Jianlan. It was actually Jianlan. I believe that this was the first time that all the surviving players had seen a partner they knew and were familiar with, transcending the status of a player and rising to a nearly godlike existence. How could it not be exciting? Unfortunately, although they had discovered this path, it was even more unattainable than not discovering it at all, because Jianlan was the #1 player in the server. Or in other words, all the people in the server combined could not beat a finger of hers. However, there is also an exciting side. Jianlan is kind and benevolent. When she was a human, she was a good president. When she was an undead NPC, she would definitely be a good flag bearer. She originally wanted to unify people's hearts through food and make everyone love each other. Now it seems that her expectation has been realized faster than before. She unified the evil mist swamp without any effort. And the extreme cold north and the kingdom of sand have become friendly and prosperous after her influence. All her long-cherished wishes came true. However, the things she had promised Tanling before were delayed again and again because of various emergencies. But she also went back to see Tanling several times. Tanling did not speak, but hummed a few times. Jianlan understood what he meant. Waiting for you. Jianlan could not help it, and hugged Tanling all of a sudden. The first time he had close contact with a woman, his body was hard, his whole body. When he tried to adapt and tried to hug Jianlan back, Jianlan withdrew her hand. Actually, she is not completely free of worries. First, since she became the flag bearer, she has learned many secrets about this world that she didn't know before. After the death of the player, it is not as common sense. They will not dissipate. Instead, they go to another game space. However, the dimension of that space is not the same as the one they're in now. So they cannot freely travel between the two worlds. However, that place does belong to this game. In this case, is there a chance to revive the dead? As my abilities grow, I want to do more things. Jianlan naturally has more ideas. In a sense, she is already immortal, and no power can destroy her. Perhaps even Tanling doesn't know this. Jianlan really wants to revive her friend. Yes, Jihao. How to connect the two events is something she needs to consider carefully. She has only been the flag bearer for a short time, so it is difficult for her, but there is still a long way to go. That day will come. She was sure. Another thing she could not forget was that Xiao Lu disappeared. Chapter 118. I didn't see him when I went there that day. He wasn't with Yen Lulu and the others. The people from the Yue Guild put men and women in separate cells. And according to Yang Huai, after Xiao Lu was taken out by them, he never came back. Those people hated traitors the most. And Liu Hua would most likely be in danger if he fell into their hands. The reason why he was unscathed and could wait for Jiang Lan to rescue him, although he was reluctant to admit it, was the fact he was completely treated as a little Karami, a small character not worth mentioning. When the guild members of the Arctic North and the Kingdom of Sand learned that the guild leader wanted to find companions, they all responded positively and searched all over the game world. Because, if one day, they were the ones who disappeared, Jian Lan would go to find them regardless of everything. These two maps, as large maps in the Disaster Apocalypse game, have a large number of players, most of whom have a good impression of the leading guild. And there should be a result soon, whether it is good or bad. As for the evil fog swamp, Jiang Lan used her flag-bearer ability to sense it remotely, and found nothing. But Jiang Lan's intuition made her believe that Xiao Lu must still exist in this world. Xiao Lu was someone who had helped her many times, and Jiang Lan cherished the friendship with him. However, she would marry Tanling soon, so her relationship with Xiao Lu, including Bo Xiao and others, would have to end here. Before she married Tanling, she would feel at ease only after she found Xiao Lu. After all, no one would want his wife to be thinking about finding another man every day after marrying him. There are many other things to do in parallel with finding Xiao Lu. After handing over the affairs of the game guild to a few trustworthy players, Jiang Lan also needs to handle the daily affairs of the flag-bearer. Of course, she also became Shang Jun's colleague and superior. The moment he saw Jiang Lan's name, Shang Jun's heart stopped. What the hell? It's not enough to just look at it. He called out the stream of consciousness again, enlarged the face of the new flag-bearer of the evil Mist Swamp, turned left and right, and observed carefully. Shang Jun finally believed this almost impossible thing. The person who became her boss is Jiang Lan. How did she do it? Shang Jun racked his brains, but only two possibilities came to mind. Or, the god's messenger had a brain attack after withdrawing Kai Wei, randomly picked a player from the evil Mist Swamp, and it just happened to be Jiang Lan. Thinking of this, Shang Jun's mouth twitched. One time was not enough. Another time. Ah! It was not twitching. It was funny. This possibility was already ridiculous enough to make people laugh. Then, let's move on to the next possibility. Jiang Lan killed Kai Wei. Shang Jun, falling into silence. Don't think about it. It was just a convulsion of the god's messenger. And it happened immediately. Turning around, he saw a familiar figure. Jiang Lan is here. In the temple, the flag-bearers held a regular meeting. Since accessing a new system, including the evil Mist Swamp, Jiang Lan discovered that there are more than 100 flag-bearers. This number is far beyond her imagination. Because, according to her current knowledge, there are only about 20 maps in the game that players can easily reach, that are well known, and that are marked on the map. The rest are places that players cannot easily reach. There are even many large maps. Some have been put into use, but some are still under construction. However, all the flag-bearers have been selected, and there is a regular meeting in the temple. However, the regular meeting is held in batches. About 10 people per group. Since the maps are close to each other, Jiang Lan and Shang Jun are in the same group. Long time no see. Jiang Lan smiled. Shang Jun, falling into silence. He didn't really want to laugh, but he still pulled the corner of his mouth. So, this smile is uglier than crying. He stretched out his hand and held Jiang Lan's hand. In that instant, his face turned pale. An expert can tell the difference with one move. Fuck. It turns out that it is really the second possibility. Oh my god, the logic does not exist. Is there still the king's law? Is there still the law? Is this guy a bug? From then on, Shang Jun completely changed his view of Jiang Lan. The way to change a person's view is very simple. Just make him unable to beat you. The absolute strength of the crushing is definitely a change of view. Therefore, Shang Jun now has a love-hate relationship with Jiang Lan. Fortunately, the regular meeting will start soon, which will dilute the waves in his heart. Since Jiang Lan came to the temple for the regular meeting for the first time, she was directly teleported here, so she was full of curiosity. The content of the regular meeting was equivalent to reading the flag-bearer's rules, which made Jiang Lan drowsy. But the magical thing is that as soon as the regular meeting ended, she woke up again. Maybe it was because she hadn't been to work for too long. which made her quite uncomfortable with this change of identity. These days, she has been the guild leader that everyone follows. But there are always people who are better than you. Although she is the flag bearer, compared with the high priest who speaks above, she is as fragile as a gust of wind. The flag bearers dispersed one after another, using teleportation to return to their fiefdoms. Shang Jun was even faster. Jianlan blinked, and he disappeared in a flash. I believe he should not like seeing me. Jianlan originally wanted to leave. Suddenly, her pupils dilated. She saw a familiar face at the end of the temple corridor. Without any hesitation, she immediately ran towards that place. After turning a corner, the familiar face disappeared. The room in front of her was called the Forbidden Land of the Gods. Jianlan stopped. Do you want to go in? A. Enter. Extra 1B, leave. Extra 2.